Clodagh hates when I do this.
Because you're not butch and you're too small to be doing stuff like that.
Oh.
Hang on. Here. You're good. Don't ask when we're getting married.
Oh. That was the main question. Don't laugh.
I always had this dream of walking down the aisle, but I never actually, as a kid, pictured a woman beside me. You always hear these stories of young girls thinking of what their dress will be and it's their end goal. Well, you know, like, believe it or not, young boys feel the same way too. When I came out, it was a glaring, obvious fact that, yes, Mum and Dad, now one of your two sons is not equal. And there was no two ways about it. It was like, well, you can't. You're this one, listen. Okay. You're that one. Straight back. Good man. That was hurtful for all of us as a unit, and it really motivated us and our friends and our extended family to just get up and fucking do something, you know? Hi guys, I'm Riyadh and I'm back with these two.
Hi.
Mama,
Hi.
Papa, and today we're going to talk about it being 1 year since we got equal marriage here in Ireland. Gays, straights, lesbians, everyone in between. We can all get married finally.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one day I'm going to want to get married too.
We met online, actually. I was just visiting Dublin and I saw his profile on Gaydar and I just sent him a message.
You tell her. She always tells it better.
Well, I met Clodagh through work. She used to come into the office.
It was a time of MySpace as well, so you could check out each other's MySpace accounts. And on the MySpace, we figured out that we liked a lot of the same music and Madonna.
I was out about 4 or 5 months when I met Anthony. And then life changed then. For the better. Yeah.
Then we went for a drink an hour later, 2 hours later, he was late.
Yeah.
We arranged to meet for coffee. And then she stalked me a few times. She used to text people to see.
Stop it!
Well, I'm just telling the truth.
I was just buzzing, so I was. I came back that night and it was late enough. I just wanted to ring someone, like.
But she did. She used to text friends to see where we were. And then I'll stop there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you the real story.
I was like, oh my God, I met this guy and he's gorgeous and he's lovely and we had a great time, we'd laugh. And
I never really sat down and came out to any of my family. I just introduced Clodagh to them.
Just brought me along to family functions.
Yeah, and that was that.
But we went on holidays together about, I think it was 3 weeks later, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a very quick romance. So we went from like meeting each other for the very first time to go on a camping holiday 3 weeks later, yeah. And then we moved in together, I think 2 months after that. So we had a very whirlwind romance, yeah.
I really wanted a family and all those things that my parents had done and that my uncles and aunties had, and that's what I really wanted. I didn't know anyone who was gay who had those, so that was really important to me.
There were so many people like myself who hadn't thought about getting married or, you know, didn't want to get married, but once the word equality was mentioned, saying to people, you're actually unequal, that's when things started to move.
I remember, you know, when we started going and talking to TDs about the issue, even those who would be instinctively supportive, you know, of rights for LGBT people, they kind of looked at us and went, well, that's not going to happen in my lifetime.
For me, marriage is one man and one woman. That's how it's always been. Don't hijack my word. My word is marriage. Think of another word for yourself.
If you ask, if that's extremely insulting to all the loving, committed same-sex couples all around this country and our friends and our families who support us.
Why do you want to be married?
Because the
What's
same as
wrong with
everybody.
your
Let me
friendships?
finish. It's not a friendship. It's deeply insulting.
If your long-term committed relationships aren't treated equally, it goes to the heart of not being accepted as a gay person.
If you call everything that grows out of the ground a rose, well, a rose is no longer a rose, and we're doing...
We want it! Yeah!
At the age of about 16, 17, I wasn't out of the closet, but I knew who I was. I knew that, you know, I was a gay man. And I would go to these same-sex marriage rallies, these marches, secretly. Not so much but to march for same-sex marriage, just to be part of something, to feel that I was around other gay people and that I was, for once, normal.
Equality has never been inevitable. It will be hard-won. This is why it is so important to keep fighting. The people making the decisions must not be allowed to forget that we are here and that we demand to be treated equally.
And it was only after my second or third rally that I realised what exactly we were marching for, why it was important. This is history that we're making here. And once I sat down and thought about that, I was like, holy shit, this is heavy.
Civil partnership was introduced here 2 years ago. It gives same-sex couples rights that are similar but not equal to those enjoyed by married couples.
Those who feel strongly against the idea of marriage equality, for them it is a theoretical thing. I live this, as do every other lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender person in the country.
The Taoiseach Eamon Gilmore has indicated there'll be a referendum on the issue next year.
The wording of the constitutional amendment on marriage equality has been published, proposing that two people can marry without distinction as to their sex. The vote is due to be held in May.
A yes vote would, I believe, send out a powerful signal internationally of an Ireland that is evolved into a fair and compassionate and tolerant nation. And therefore I say to all same-sex couples in our country, this is about you. It's about your right to say two small words made up of three simple letters. I do. So for you, in your lives together, may they become your letters of freedom.
300 people today attended the launch of Yes Equality. The group is made up of GLEN, the Gay and Lesbian Equality Network, the Irish Council for Civil Liberties and Marriage Equality.
The Yes Equality group was being officially launched with lots of familiar faces from lots of different backgrounds.
Yes Equality, the campaign for civil marriage equality, is now formally launched.
The Long 2 says it will spend the next 7 weeks trying to bring about change for its members, many of whom don't have a voice because they're too young to vote.
Although the Yes side is ahead in the opinion polls, all sides will be conscious of the fact that this can change, as was the case in previous referendums.
It's the implications for family and children's rights in so many different ways, particularly in the right of a child to have a father and mother. That is going to be radically undermined by this referendum if it passes.
She asked me would I train with her to do a triathlon up in Connemara, and
that sounds like it's a line. It's not a line. No, I was actually training for a triathlon.
So I think somewhere around running around the Phoenix Park training, we found love. Here we are, 4 years later. So there's this stripy one. That's my favourite.
Life is just so big, you know, and the thought of having another little member of the family to share that with just seems like the right thing, you know, like it's right.
And then there's these cardigans.
So we had just decided to start trying to have a family the month before the referendum. So just at the moment that was happening, the posters went up and the debates were happening, and it made it really, really tough.
It was just no poster on every single lamppost all the way to work, and it was really quite overwhelming because you had, you know, all of the fear and all of the apprehension over all of the years just kind of hit you in that moment of having your life debated on a lamppost.
You've seen the posters. You may have had people knocking at your door. There's been a lot of chat and the debate is heating up with all roads leading to May 22nd.
Marriage is not appropriate for same-sex relationships.
Why?
Because it is not the family unit with children, a mother and a father.
We must redefine what we understand as marriage to be, and the consequences of that redefinition.
Thank you. If this legislation comes in,
Unborn children to come will not have the right to a mother or a father, deliberately. This will be deliberate.
It's upsetting in a way that really cuts to the centre of you, you know, it really gets to that place. It gets to that place when you're a teenager and are afraid, or when you're, you know, younger and you don't think there's any space for you. Suddenly this big Pandora's box opens and everyone's having the debate.
Do you know what I think children should be raised in? I think they should be raised with good parenting, with love, with people looking after their welfare.
It wouldn't matter. So mothers and fathers don't matter. That's your position.
Okay.
Do you know what?
And love matters.
We only had an hour.
Everybody's talking about you. This big debate that everyone's happening, it's actually about you and whether you're worthwhile or whether you're to be trusted with children. They're having a debate about you as if you're like an idea, you know. How could that not be personal?
Yeah.
The referendum is not about whether gay people should have children or not. They already do.
We're overcomplicating things. Love is love, and all we're looking for is to have our love equally recognised and protected.
Okay. You will be a patient and you'll be a patient and a hedgehog.
Okay. Okay, are you the doctor then? Yeah. I think I need a cuddle. I need a cuddle,
Cuddles are in
doctor.
short supply. Mummy loves this one. Shall I say, "Aww"?
I wanted to have loads of babies. That
And I
was
just
always
do
my
whatever
plan.
Lynn says. So.
So we tried for a long time, and we were really, really lucky. Then Edie came along. Then
Beep beep beep. You watching it?
Beep 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 beep.
Edie.
And then when she arrived, it was just the best day of our lives. Yeah. And every day has been great fun since. She's just amazing.
Hey! Got it! Will I blow some to Granny and Mummy? Yeah. Oh. We knew that we'd want the same rights for Edie as we would for any child, you know, so it was just so hard for us to believe that people would sit there and basically say the opposite, that, you know, it's okay to treat one child differently from another.
Growing up with two dads isn't really any different from having like a mother or father, or just a mother or just a father, because in my eyes they're just my parents, and it doesn't really change the fact that they're both males. I've never had anyone say anything negative to me about my dad's ever, to be honest, and the only time I started to see it was when everything with the referendum started to come up, and that was really puzzling for me. I was like, what's wrong with it? Why is it any different?
Next, according to our draw, is the director of Amnesty International, who's advocating a yes vote in the marriage referendum. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Colm O'Gorman.
Paul and myself now are together 16 years. We're kind of accidental parents, I have to say. A very, very close friend of mine was very ill and discovered she was pregnant after a relationship broke up. And when she discovered she was pregnant, she asked me, would I be her child's guardian if something happened to her? Yes. But we both knew that we weren't talking about if, it was a when. And sadly, Susie died in 2006. At that stage, Sean had come to live with us permanently. And his sister had come to live with us then. His sister, Sophia, had come to live with us about a year after he came to live with us permanently as well. They're now 16 and 18.
I had heard that people had said that two women might be allowed to adopt a child, but not two men, because how could they possibly talk about periods or bras or things to a man? But, it's literally no different.
Petra is arguing for a legal arrangement that bans me from being able to marry the person that I love, that demands that my family be treated unequally in this republic.
I'd been on Facebook and I was scrolling through, and there was a lot of posts about voting no and how gay or lesbian couples shouldn't be allowed to adopt children or anything, and what the ideal family was. And that really started to kind of upset and frustrate me.
You are very welcome, Petra, to never get married. I have no judgment of your life. I would love it if you didn't seek to restrict mine.
I wrote a few pages of what I felt, and Dad got home and I handed him the essay and I was like, can you read this? And he was like, oh God, okay.
My name is Sophia Barrett, I'm 15 years old. Marriage equality is a topic I feel very strongly about. She ended up going on the Ray D'Arcy show on RT1 and reading out her letter, which was one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had in a radio studio in my life.
The day it actually happened, I thought I was okay, but I got into the studio and I was shaking. I was so nervous.
551 or ray@rte.ie. Now, 15-year-old Sophia, you wrote a letter about your family situation.
Yeah.
So will you read your letter to us, please?
My name is Sophia and I'm 15 years old. Marriage equality is a topic I feel very strongly about, as my parents are 2 gay men. What does it matter if it's a man and a woman, 2 men or 2 women? As long as they love their kids, look after them and support them, as long as their kids are properly cared for, what's the difference?
To stand up in front of people and speak out like that wouldn't be something that she would ordinarily have done. It was a big thing. Like, that took courage on her part.
Dad, says Pat and Kerry, and I'm not a man who cries, but that girl has stirred my emotions to tears. God bless her, says.
Afterwards, when he was reading all the comments, it just kind of hit me that, like, wow, this reached a lot more people than I imagined it would.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in giving a very warm welcome to former President Mary McAleese.
The only children who are certain to be affected by this referendum are Ireland's gay children. It is their future which is at stake. They are, unfortunately, too few in number to win this referendum on their own. We have to make it happen for them. It will take just this one historic act of communal solidarity. Embracing the future, embracing love, embracing equality, when we confer on our gay citizens full civic equality for the very, very first time. Thank you for what you're doing, every one of you, to make it happen.
It's Riyadh here, and now I am joined by my mom this time round. Hello. My big passion, my baby, is my YouTube channel, where I just sort of do whatever I want. What I've done for the last 3 weeks is I downloaded Grindr onto my phone, and every night, religiously, for an hour, I'd leave it there to let messages roll in. So this is going to be the very, very first time that I'm going to hear them, and you're going to hear them from her mouth.
Want your sucked? Oh. Riyadh, is this for real?
I have this amazing relationship with my parents that I would call kind of unusual, because it is so open, painfully open.
The heck of you.
Are you saying that to me?
No, he said that.
They've seen me kiss a guy. They've seen me kiss a couple of guys. They talk to me about my sex life, which might sound weird, but that's just what we're like in this house. We don't really have any barrier to what is or is not okay to talk about. What?
Oh my God. I just love meeting all of his boyfriends. And I will say, I don't know about him, Riyadh.
The next most important thing has got to be where you go after the wedding, the honeymoon. So you went your honeymoon.
We went to Brighton for a day.
I was sort of an accidental campaigner. It just sort of happened. And I thought, okay, what can I do? Everyone has to do something, whether it's send out a few tweets, be at every single rally, talk to their granddad, talk to their granny, or in my case, make a video. He's 7 years old, in the playground, the first time they tell him he's different. 12 years old when he finds out why. Fag, puff, queer, sick. Some of the words that will sting as they ring in his ear for the rest of his life. What I would do was I would watch interviews on TV of these no-side campaigners telling me that I was lesser than them, telling me that I couldn't have the happiness that I should have, and it got me really pissed off. And that got me to a place where what I was writing, it was potent, and it was coming from the heart, and I was emotional, and I was angry. I was really, really angry. Our love has the same meaning, value, and importance as anyone else's.
I kept watching the video and saying, yes, like, it's from the heart. It's, why wouldn't somebody vote yes?
These videos and these Twitter hashtags just started to come out of the woodwork, seemingly from nowhere.
Hello? Hey, Granny!
Yes, Donald, how are you? They talked to people, and they were super shareable. People were like, yes, 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 I want all of my people to see this thing, because that's saying the thing that I want to say, but I don't quite know how to say it.
We are voting for equal marriage. We hope you will vote with us.
We're from Dundalk.
We're Roman Catholics and we will be 50 years married this year. We wish other couples, gay or straight, could legally avail of civil marriage and have the opportunity to experience the love, protections and companionship that we have experienced.
To have an elderly couple sitting there going, lads, we're religious, you know, but this is about equality.
We ask you to vote with us.
It was the first referendum or campaign in Ireland where social media was a really significant factor in it. You know, so you have the Bring Your Family With You video, for instance, being watched by like 500,000 people, I think. It was the first time ever that kind of online mobilisation translated into real life mobilisation, and it was hugely important.
It was about visibility, making yourself visible, making sure people knew that this was an issue that was important.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, you know, and I think there was a positivity to it as well.
They're going for election now.
Who are?
The old gays. It's not an election. And what's it for? A referendum. I think I'll vote for the bisexuals. They'd be better than that old crowd we have in there now anyway.
It was just much easier to know exactly what was going on at all times.
So that's why I'm calling, just to ask if you will be voting yes for me in May.
You don't need to ask me that question. I have been behind you 100% from the day that you came out.
I know. Thank you.
You know that.
Yeah, I have
always been your number one fan because you're so brave. You know that. And I love you very, very much.
Love you too.
I moved to London in June 2014. When the referendum was confirmed, it was quite straightforward for me that I was going to come home and vote. I was actually at a gig in London. I got a notification on my phone from the RTE News app. I went home. I built a really shoddy website on Tumblr and just bought the getthevotevote.com URL. The next day I posted it on my Twitter and Facebook, and instantly there was a big reaction. And I suppose by the end of that day I was getting emails from all over the UK and then from further afield, so America, Canada, Australia. I just had this idea that maybe if we made a bit of an occasion of it, it might entice a few more people to come home and vote yes. I think a lot of people, recent immigrants, even people who've emigrated a long time ago, still felt like they had a stake in the outcome of the referendum, even if they're not living here in the country, and wanted to do whatever they could to help it pass.
Really, it was a nervous time because we had no money in the bank to run a campaign. And I remember talking to a colleague. She kept saying to me, don't worry, if you build it, they will come. I knew I wanted to put on a bus tour. And then those horrible no posters went up, and then we raised enough money for the bus tour in 7 days.
The Yes bus is just about to leave from Dublin. It's going to...
It was really a sign. Then we knew that the appetite was there, people were motivated, they were activated, they were ready to get on board, you know. So off we went on the bus tour, 26 counties in 27 days, and we covered some mileage, I can tell you. We'd basically fill the bus up with volunteers, and we'd set off for the day, and we'd arrive in Portlaoise or Westport or something like that, and everybody'd jump out of the bus and we'd play loud music and we'd have our props, and we were colourful and happy, and we'd basically meet with the local activists, the local Yes Equality groups, and we would go on a blitz around the town for a few hours, canvassing, talking to people, listening to their stories. So many other amazing people, an older woman who told me her story, and even though she found it sometimes the most humiliating thing to have to stand on a street and ask somebody for the permission to get married, she was just going to suck it up and do it for the 4 weeks that was in it, you know, and they were just amazing, all the people who took part.
I think I'll go yes. Oh.
Why are you so sure?
Because this century, what's wrong with it? Yeah, you know what I mean, this century, the name of God.
Why is everyone voting yes in this spot? Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of gay people around this area.
The what?
There's a lot of gay people around the area.
It's probably the most accepting place that, like, I'm a gay man myself. So
But if you feel so accepted here anyway, why does it matter that much?
Because if you love someone, like, and you want to spend the rest of your life with them, then you want to be seen as a union in the eyes of the law and the church. Because I would be someone who believes in Catholicism, do you know what I mean?
I mean, well, it's in recent time that all this gay thing has come to light, like.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, come back. I know. Come back to years that were very scarce, like.
I am a tough nut, but I am 46 years old and I have grown to be a tough nut. And I would like if young lesbian and gay people, had the choice not to turn into the tough nut that I am, that they can just, be.
This is my coming out of the closet, as it were, publicly, and saying that I support this vote, with every fibre of my being,
What are you on?
We're on about the voting.
Oh, yeah.
I was giving them an opinion that the yes will
they're
win.
entitled to an old yes, yeah.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah.
We're
Our
in
head
the-
was buried in the sand long enough. Yeah.
We now need to ask you to dig deep again. We want to put posters on every lamppost across Ireland. Please donate what you can and a little bit more. Help us get the message across to people in every single town in Ireland. Thank you.
I think everybody that went out and canvassed were brave.
It was pretty nerve-wracking. We changed the narrative very early on from it being about, will you vote yes, to, I'm just here to tell you about why I'm voting yes.
But there was people there, really faced hardship for being gay, and yet they were still willing to go and knock on a stranger's door, and tell their story. That's amazing. But then you got the no side, and even the nicest no, for whatever the reasons were, even the nicest no was tough. You were saying no to us. Whatever your belief system, why are you denying us?
This referendum is about civil marriage. Churches won't be forced to hold weddings, but Ireland's Catholic leaders are against change, and their words have had some influence.
I just think that marriage has always been between a man and a woman.
It's not the natural order for two men or two women to get married and have kids.
I spent most of the campaign worrying about whatever was a no, to be really honest.
Your mind was just going to constantly fill with thoughts of, is it a yes, is it a no, is it a yes, is it a no? What does it, each one of those answers, what does it mean to us?
A UK-based study would show quite conclusively that in relation to most relationship-type comparisons, that children do better when raised by their own biological parents in a low-conflict marriage.
It did become a little bit more about well, do you accept us or don't you? I got pretty badly abused by some very religious person, told me I was an abomination to get off our property, all these, and I'd never encountered something like that before in all the years that we've been together. So that was an adjustment to make. We'd kind of been living in a very nice world, thinking that didn't really exist in Drogheda, do you know, that sort of way.
We are now really pushing for people to think about why they want to vote yes. This day week will be polling day.
I had this feeling of oh fuck, what if something goes wrong? That sense.
There was a lot more people going, do you know what, it's nothing against you, but I'm going to vote no. And you'd be like, why? And unforeseen circumstances. And you'd be like, what does that mean? And it was fear.
Once you change the constitutional definition of marriage to allow two men or two women to marry, no law in Ireland will be able to distinguish between a married man and man in any law. So, for example, it would be impossible for an adoption law to give preference to motherhood and fatherhood. It would be impossible for an IVF law to do the same.
No one was sure, because once someone's in a private polling booth, anything can happen. They can be, yes, 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 I love the gays, love the gays. The gays are amazing. They need to marry. And then once they go into this private little booth, they can go, no, put it in, no one ever knows,
Hello there from Yes Equality. Here we are. Tomorrow is in fact polling day.
This is a special announcement for those customers who are heading home to Ireland today. Today's your opportunity to make a difference, to give your support for Ireland's gay marriage referendum.
I had made life very difficult for myself and decided to move house the night before we were getting the boat. Someone had come to inspect the house because I was due to move out of it and wanted to examine each of the different bedrooms, and I was ignoring them and frantically tweeting away, and because that was the day when the Home to Vote hashtag really took off. It kind of took me by surprise a bit. Initially in the morning there was a handful of tweets of people posting boarding passes or selfies from the airport. Some Irish comedian had likened Home to Vote to a scene in Lord of the Rings where the elves come over the hill. Very excited. We've got people to go on the boat. I remember arriving to Euston Station and there was just a gang of people there who had done like DIY t-shirts saying yes, and they had all these like rainbow balloons and rainbow skirts. When I arrived and saw this, my hopes were really lifted, and I kind of just was like, had a really good feeling that it was going to be okay. We were kind of creating a bit of a scene on the train, if I'm honest. I think some people probably moved out of the carriage that we were in because we were so noisy. Everyone was in really good spirits. It was kind of strange for me to meet these people who I had only known by Twitter handles. I think if I had just booked a flight and gone home myself, I don't think I would have felt as confident in the results.
If you do decide in Ireland, make your vote count and give everyone their entitlement to marry the person that they love without question.
I think what has happened, regardless of the result, is that an amazing movement has taken place. People have been galvanised to affect change.
It was incredible. It was one of the best days of my life, I have to say.
Are you ready for love? We also know many people travelled home from abroad in time to cast their votes.
I was joining from Thailand, so kind of started about 20 hours ago trying to get my way here.
So my original flight was actually booked for tomorrow, but I purposely changed the time of the flight so I could come home to vote.
So we've just arrived in from Geneva. We're emigrating to the US in a few weeks, and we came today so that we could vote before we go.
I didn't book my return flight until I knew when the vote was going to be, because I knew I wanted to be home in time to vote.
Just back, last stop was Dubai. I was in Melbourne before that.
I had a chance I could push my flights back, but I decided not to, so I could come back and vote. As you can see from my badge, I'll be voting yes. I have a lot of friends who are gay. My brothers are gay. My uncle was gay who passed away last year. I think it's about time we've had this vote in this country. Actually, I think it's a joke that it has to go to a vote, but at least we're getting a say.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yes, all the way.
Yes, I'm going to vote yes.
I'll be voting yes.
We're all voting yes.
Yes.
It's polling day, 2 referendums, and all we can talk about today is the mechanics of voting. So let's do that now with Micheál Lahan of RTÉ's political staff. Micheál, the polls are open 22 minutes and 15 seconds ago.
On the day of the vote itself, there was just incredible, a positive atmosphere about the city.
It felt like a perfect day.
I tossing and turning the whole night through, like literally didn't sleep a wink, do you know?
I mean, we were awake since about 5 o'clock, just with the anxiety of the day of the vote.
Yeah, we went through the whole motions of giving Edie her breakfast and having breakfast ourselves and just realising that Edie doesn't actually realise how important this day is. What a momentous occasion it will be if the vote is yes.
Well, we had this van, this vintage van, and we decided that all of us working together on this part of the campaign, the Bounty Yes part, that we'd take each other to vote. We rented a speaker and we drove around town playing I Feel Love out of the back of it.
And when we went to the polling station, we got there at about 20 to 7, and there was already a line of people standing at the polling station. And as we walked into the polling station at 7 a.m, there was a huge round of applause.
I was like, yay, do you know, we're here, do you know, finally.
There was this feeling of, come on, this can happen. This is something that can happen.
This is a good thing
This is a good thing to happen.
It was just electrifying, the feeling in the room. You know, whether it was people were voting no beside you, yes beside you, it was a different feel to the room. We saw a neighbour come out when we were standing across the road, and he comes out and he just goes,
The most important vote, though, of our lives.
Yeah.
We were going up to do that together.
We went to Finglas to pick up David. All the neighbours came out and started getting photographs taken with the van and getting into the van. And actually, when people were leaving the polling stations, you could see, like, you didn't see anybody coming out going, like, everybody was coming out with a massive smile on their face.
I've been in Dublin for all of 5 minutes, and I can already tell that this is a huge topic of debate for everyone. It's already been mentioned on the radio.
The Human Rights Campaign in America, they're the biggest equal rights organization for LGBTs worldwide. You know, they are massive.
Campaign headquarters, and so
And I was contacted by a couple of guys from there, and they're like, look, we're coming to Ireland, we want to film some stuff, we know you've done a bit for the campaign, would you mind if we like shadowed you and your family? I was like, absolutely not, like this is fantastic, come along.
Look who I'm with right now, it's Riyadh.
Yeah, so they followed us every step of the way, and I could see it in their eyes, they were like excited for us. They were almost more excited than we were because we were just bollocksed. We were tired. It was such a long campaign.
Now we're on our way to do MSNBC live from Dublin Castle, where there's a huge amount of voting going on for same-sex marriage in Ireland.
What am I gonna say? Like, what am I gonna? But then at the moment they put it in there, like you're live in 20 seconds, 10, 9, 8.
We're watching this play out right now on social media. One of the trending hashtags is Vote Yes. Another one is Home to Vote for expats returning to Ireland to vote. What's the sense there right now as to how the vote's going this morning?
There's a huge turnout, which is absolutely fantastic. And we're looking at the hashtags, and a lot of people are wearing the Yes Equality badges. Thousands upon thousands of people are coming from all over the world back home because today is a hugely historic moment.
Riyadh Khalaf, thank you for being with me. We'll keep a very close watch on what's happening in Ireland today.
We saw on social media that some people had a nice idea to go to Fairview Park, where Declan Flynn was murdered back in the 80s.
In the early hours of September the 10th last, in Fairview Park in Dublin, Declan Flynn was set upon by 5 men, including a 15-year-old youth. He was savagely beaten, unconscious, and left mortally wounded. He inhaled blood from his mouth and nose and died from asphyxia.
We thought it might be nice to go there and lay some flowers. We found the bench with the other flowers, and other people were just people out walking their dog or people jogging asked us, what we were doing, and we told them, and we were talking about how here we were walking through this park now holding hands on this day, and it just seemed I get emotional now even thinking about it.
All of the sentences were suspended by What this means is that if they don't get into trouble with the police during the period of their suspension, they will not serve any detention for depriving Declan Flynn of his life.
When I got back to the car that night, there was a missed call from my father, and he was bawling on the phone. He'd gone out and voted, and he was very upset and just emotional. But all he wanted to say was that he was proud of me for standing up for myself.
We had no idea whether it was going to pass or not. Absolutely not. We ran that silent campaign that day, and then we hit social media. Have you voted yet? Get out and vote. Tell your friends. Get out and vote. Text 10 people. Get out and vote. Right, and that was right up. And I remember sitting at the computer, 10 o'clock that night, the polls closed, and sitting back and just being like, that's all we can do. We've done our best.
I had been working on this for 8 years, and now that was it. There was nothing more I could do.
You're waiting for a whole country to make a judgment on who you are. It's a bizarre thing.
By the end of it, we were just like, at this stage, we just want to know. Just tell us. Did we get it?
We'll know in a matter of hours if Ireland's made history and become the first country in the world to vote for marriage equality. Counting of what will be a record number of votes cast in a referendum gets underway at
You could just feel it. You could feel it in the air that today something big was going to happen.
There was always that worry that was going to be a no.
When you're in here today, you will be the face to the world of what's happening on this count centre, and there will be people who don't agree with us here. We have to remember the respect and dignity that we brought to this campaign, and we will make sure on the last day of this campaign that respect and dignity will be as real today in this room as we made it in every single corner of our capital city. Thanks so much for everything you've done, and I really, really hope that everybody walks out of here feeling every bit as joyful as they deserve to for every bit of energy and every bit of love and passion that you put into this. Have a great morning.
There was always that fear, because it was something so steeped in silence, that maybe that silence was no.
I've been to count centres before, but I've never seen anything like this. Usually they struggle to get people to tally, you know, but there was...
People were fighting. It was
people fighting
to get in and count the votes, yeah.
We're bringing you the first results as they come in and discussing the issues in this historic poll.
We're watching and waiting here in New York City.
A larger electorate will mean a historic number of votes has been cast.
It's very early in the count, and the tallies are at best a sample.
If this is a no, this is going to be devastating.
They've only have about 50% of the boxes open so far. So large is the turnout.
Miriam O'Callaghan is in Dublin Castle for us this morning. Miriam?
Later on today, we'll bring you the live declaration of the final results in both referendums.
I was really in bits, just thinking maybe we've misjudged the whole thing, and it will be a no. And then what? And I think it was the first time I really let myself think about what if it was a no.
Dublin Central was being counted, so we made our way to that section of the tally, and there was a box there from the North Inner City, which is where we live, and they opened it and they started counting it, and it was just overwhelming. It looked like almost every single card that came out was going into the yes pile, you know, just like one after another after another.
Yes.
It was phenomenal, and it was where we live, you know, and we were looking at it, and I turned around to Jamie and said, oh my God, this is going to be a landslide.
Yes.
We started like just hugging each other, like, oh man, like this is our community is saying yes by a phenomenal majority or whatever.
I came into my mum's bedroom and I just sat with her on the bed and we watched TV. And there was smiley heads and we kind of had a feeling.
We had gotten up really early and decided we would just go into town because we would just wander around and wait. When we got on the bus, I saw a tweet that said that the no side had conceded. And that it was a landslide, that it was a definitive yes.
David Quinn of the Iona Institute has just tweeted his congratulations to the yes side.
60% yes.
60% yes. 63% yes.
65% yes.
73% yes.
80% yes.
The minute the tallies kind of slowed down and it started to sink in, we were like, oh my God, we've done this. We've done this. Oh my God, we've done this. It's yes, it's a yes.
We were just like hugging each other and kind of like crying, and we turned around and there was all these like flashbulbs going off, and suddenly we were in the middle of this kind of scrum of
It was really weird. I mean, and I was just, I had really ugly cry face. So I had to bury my head further into Michael's neck going like, just tell me when it's over because this is so embarrassing.
And it was kind of the nature of the referendum itself, that the moment was a private moment, you know, that suddenly became a big public moment.
When I got down to the RDS, to the count centre, I mean, it really was a party at that stage. So when India and Claude arrived, the place went nuts.
You are my hero. For everybody involved, how do you feel today?
I'm delighted. People who've never voted in anything before in their lives came out to stand up for gay and lesbian people, to stand up for what they believe Ireland is all about, which is a fairer, more inclusive place, and it makes me so proud to be Irish.
Well, I
I think today it looks like finally Ireland's lesbian and gay citizens will become fully equal.
Big fat yes from Dublin South East.
The Irish people are a fair-minded people, and they endorsed their fair-mindedness in their vote yesterday. And to the people of Ireland, on behalf of the likes of me, and the people after me, and the people before me, and all the people here, thank you so, so much.
Everyone was just heading towards Dublin Castle because nobody knew what to do.
We walked up towards it and it was like we couldn't walk fast enough.
This is a day of liberation for gay people. It is a day in which the Irish people have made this huge statement that everybody in this country is equal.
Brian, I've sat in this studio now for a decade and a half. Politics never mattered as much. This is an incredible result.
The feeling on the street, I mean, Dublin became the most beautiful place in the world that day. It was beautiful.
Will you marry me?
Proud day, and I'm glad to be able to be here.
Today is about equality, it's about freedom, and it's also letting younger people know that there's no need to be afraid anymore of being gay, that they'll be accepted, and everybody in society is the same now.
Majority of votes in favour of the proposal, 467,307.
To the entire world is one of dignity and freedom and tolerance, liberté, fraternité, égalité.
I mean, who'd ever have thought that we'd have a moment, like a democratic moment, that was full of that much joy, that had people dancing in the streets, and that it would be this, you know? That in a country that only 22 years earlier finally decriminalised homosexuality, and that was a controversial thing to do at the time, that 22 years later, only 22 years later, we'd be dancing in the streets, all of us, straight and gay, old and young, celebrating the fact that we'd voted for marriage equality. If you want to understand Ireland, that tells you who Ireland is.
It's the longest run-up to a wedding ever, seeing as we first got engaged in 2004. Married life, to me, I can't wait to just be a boring, regular, married couple, not extraordinary, not other, not second class, not anything else, but just a boring, you know, married couple, equal.
It took a little time.